along the lush mountains of West Virginia in the summer, and the snow-capped hills in the winter, where Pop would let me come along his hunting trips. A different kind of hunting. I don't think I will ever go hunting again.
The war was over for Private Tom McCabe soon after writing this next letter, when he received a $1 million wound while serving in Vietnam. It was a non-fatal injury that was severe enough to guarantee a trip home. Recuperating at Fort Knox in Kentucky, McCabe expressed to his parents how elated he was to simply be alive and back home in the USA.
What a marvelous feeling to be back in this glorious country of ours. I'm still awed every morning when I can wake up and look out of the plush countryside with its green grass and rolling forested hills and blue skies over here. It's like I've been through some sort of nightmare. But dawn has come, and the bad dream has vanished with the coming of a new day.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her
guys serving their country in a foreign land crave a living and breathing reminder of home, and often found comfort in music. Recognizing that low spirits could be as great a threat as any enemy, President Franklin D. Roosevelt commissioned a group to entertain the troops, and in 1941, the first USO tour was presented. Since that time, countless musicians have often risked their own lives to entertain the troops. Many have written home about performers who came to their camps to lift their spirits with the gift of music. A style of music heard at USO tours during the Korean War and the first years of the Vietnam War was doo-wop. American artists entertained the troops with doo-wop forever.
Take you up in paradise up above. If you would tell me I'm the only one that you love, life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello, hello again. Shaboom and hoping we'll meet again. Oh, life could be a dream. If only all my precious plans would come true. If you would let me spend my whole life loving you, life could be a dream, sweetheart. Shaboom, shaboom, ya la 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 la, shaboom, shaboom, ya la 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 la, shaboom, shaboom. Life can be a dream, sweetheart. I wonder, wonder who wrote the book of love? Tell me, oh, who wrote the book of love? I've got to know the answer. Was it someone from above? I wonder who wrote the book of love? I love you, darling, baby, you know I do. But I've got to see this book of love, find out why it's true. I wonder who wrote the book of love? Chapter 1 says a lover with all your heart. Chapter 2, you tell her you're never ever gonna part. In chapter 3, remember the meaning of romance. In chapter 4, you break up, but you give her just one more chance. Oh, I wonder who wrote the book of love? In the still of the night, I held you tight, 'cause I love you so. Promise I'll never let you go. In the still of the night, I remember that night in May. The stars were bright above. I hope and I pray to keep your precious love well before it should be done. Hold me again with all of your might. Still all night, in the still of
You can dance every dance with a guy that gives you the eye. Let him hold you tight. You can smile Every smile for the one that holds your hand in the pale moonlight. Just don't forget who's taken you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me.
Oh, I know that the music
Yes,
is
I know.
fine, like sparkling
Oh, I know.
wine. Go and have
Yes, I
fun.
know. Oh, I know.
Laugh and sing,
Yes, I know.
but while we're
Oh, I
apart,
know.
don't give
Yes,
your
I know.
heart to anyone.
Oh, I know. Just don't forget who's taken you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Whoa, so darling, save the last dance for me. Oh, so darling, save the last dance for me. For me.
Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say good night, sweetheart. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say good night, sweetheart. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Good night. Why must I be a teenager in
During times of war, letters from soldiers clearly reveal just what a sacrifice they really made. 21-year-old Lieutenant Tommy Kennedy was one of thousands taken prisoner at Corregidor during World War II, and he spent nearly 3 years as a POW. Fatally malnourished and incarcerated on a Japanese hell ship, Kennedy sensed by early January 1945 that the end was near. On the back of 2 family photographs he had saved throughout the war, Kennedy handwrote in tiny letters a farewell message to his parents.
Dearest Mommy and Dad, I'm writing you this so you know exactly what happened and won't be like so many other parents. I guess I really made a mistake in not listening to you and coming out here. If only I could have been killed in action. It's so useless to die here of dysentery with no medicine. Walt and Bud left for Manchuria September of '42, and we've been stationed since December 13th at Manila. Bombed twice from 2 ships, on the 3rd now. Use my money to buy Turkey Ranch so you always have somewhere to go. Give the sisters liberal amounts and see to it that Gary has sport model auto his first year high school. Also, see to it that nieces are best dressed. Write Mary Robertson at Hootsdale, Pennsylvania. Her son Melville passed away on the 17th of January of dysentery with his head on my shoulder. We were like brothers. He was buried somewhere at sea off the China coast. And tell Patty I'm sorry. I guess we were never truly meant to be together. I weigh about 90 pounds now, if you're concerned as to how we are. I'll sign off now, darlings, and please don't grieve too much. These are my bars and collar-in signs. The medals are Walt's. See to it his mother gets them. I'm not afraid to go, and we'll be waiting for you. All my love, Tommy Kennedy.
Kennedy's final letters and medals were smuggled from one POW to another. Each made certain that, before dying, the items were passed on to someone else. When the survivors were liberated at war's end, Kennedy's belongings were mailed to his parents in late 1945, well over 4 years after their teenage son had left for the Pacific. American veterans have contributed so much to the cause of world peace and the preservation of our way of life. We cannot rightfully celebrate that joy or our freedom without remembering the great price paid for that freedom. When we consider the untold numbers of men and women who chose to set aside their personal ambitions and dreams in order to secure the well-being of our nation, we stagger at the eternal sacrifices for the advancement and surety of our liberty. At this time, we honor those who have paid for our freedom with their lives. We ask you to stand as we offer this tribute.
Till it was done, you had the strength to carry on. You thought it'd be much better back home, did you? You try each day, keep pushing through, but the battle is inside of you. It's a cold and it's a broken.
As we reflect on and honor the sacrifices our veterans made in order to secure our freedom, we marvel at their strength to keep going in the face of adversity. Many found this strength in the hope that they would see their loved ones again soon. Others survived by developing a sense of humor. June Wandry, a nurse during World War II, wrote this letter to her parents about soldiers suffering from pilonidal cysts, affectionately known as Jeep seats.
It was the most cheerful ward. Each AM, when Major and I would come in to change their dressings and check their surgeries, I'd call out, "Bottoms up, fellas!" 30 plump pairs of smiling buns would turn skyward.
Later, June was stationed in Western Europe and she received a disturbing letter from her boyfriend. He wrote asking her to come back home so that it would be easier for him to decide whether he really loved her or a new girl he had met. He told June that it would sure lift the weight from his heart and mind if she could return. Frustrated, but still keeping her same sense of humor, June writes again to her mom, dad, and sister.
Mother, Daddy, and Ruthie, it is cruel to lift the weight from a man's heart and mind who is living stateside in great comfort and luxury in custom-tailored uniforms, and put it on another's heart and mind who is living in a tent in the mud, being rocked by artillery fire in the mountains, and harassed by low-flying German fighter pilots. I can understand civilians not knowing how war is fought, but I will never understand how officers can be so naive. He says, return to the States, now. What? Am I supposed to go to General Mark Clark, letter in hand, and ask permission to leave the battle zone? Lying creatively, I gently let him off the hook in a short letter. In spirit, I joined the Legion of Soldiers, an ETO, who received a Dear John letter. Love postponed on the account of war became my battle cry. Just June.
Sitting among us today are heroes, the men and women who have served us well in our fight for freedom. Today, we honor them all. We ask that all the veterans stand as the hymn of your branch of armed services is sung, giving us the opportunity to publicly express our gratitude to you.
The United States Army. the United States Navy. United States Coast Guard. United States Marines. United States Air Force.
It has been such a privilege to honor our veterans with tonight's program. Perhaps you've been moved and wonder if there is something that you can do to help them. At this time, we would like to introduce you to an organization in our own area that is working diligently to improve the quality of life for wounded veterans. It is the Smoky Mountain Service Dog. The mission of this organization is to enhance the physical and psychological quality of life for wounded veterans by providing custom-trained mobility assistant service dogs at no cost to the veteran. Joining us this evening to share his story is Mr. Chuck Stewart, a local Army veteran, and his service dog, Sadie. Please welcome Mr. Chuck Stewart.
Down. Yes.
Good evening. I feel humbled to be standing up here in front of so many people interested in honoring our veterans. I want to thank Seymour High School and the lovely presentation, and Andrea Gant for the gracious invitation. I'm humbled to share a snapshot of what I want of my career as a soldier and now as a veteran. When Andrea had asked me to speak before you tonight, my thought was who, what, when, and where. And I brainstormed with Andrea what would be best, and in the end, she and I decided I would talk about my career. How I got wounded, my life before my service dog Sadie, and life now. And to speak about for 10 to 15 minutes, and as I relayed this to my wife, Cheryl, as I was preparing the speech, all she said was, "Wow, you don't have much time for the way you talk." Thanks, hon. Like every veteran, we all have stories, and this is mine. I signed a contract joining the United States Army on March 3rd, 1988. Now let me explain a little bit about myself. My family can be traced back to 980 AD. Starting with the Knights Templar, we fought in the Crusades. We were mercenaries, sheriffs, stewards for the King of England and King of Scotland. The Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Civil War, a family who fought on both sides. My grandfather was a veteran of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, many islands in between. My grandmother drove tanks to ships that were going to the European theater in World War II. My father was in the Army in Florida during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I come from a long line of veterans. Signing my contract, I was destined to serve my country. On 31 March, I was welcomed with a lovely reception by a group of men called drill sergeants to Harmony Church, Fort Benning, Georgia. Let's make no mistake about it. There is no harmony in Harmony Church. There is pain, there is agony, blood, sweat, and sometimes tears, along with a lot of growing up and finding out exactly who you are as a person. A small price for doing something bigger than yourself. As I enlisted into the airborne infantry, spending 15 weeks in basic training and jump school when I graduated, I lost my country's freedoms as a citizen. I became something bigger than myself. I became a protector of our rights, our Constitution, and our freedom. From September of '88 to 1990, I was with the 1st Infantry Division Forward in Stuttgart, Germany, later being assigned to the Long-Range Surveillance Detachment, Lurch D, training in Morocco, Rome, Italy. It was there where I learned how to be a soldier, discovering the world, traveling all over Europe, and learning about the wall in Russia. It was the end of the Reagan years, a great time to be a soldier. But this time I had gone to the German shooting course called the Schutzschnur, the French commando course, and a lot of military schools in between. And my introduction to working with special forces, little did I realize I was developing my own career path. As my 2-year tour was ending, I already had orders to the 101st Airborne Division. The week before I left from Europe, Saddam Hussein had attacked Kuwait. Later, 30 days later, I would find myself in Saudi Arabia. And 90 days after that, I would be part of the biggest air assault invasion of our country's history to date with Operation Desert Storm. I was with the 3rd Battalion, 187 Regimental Combat Team, the Rakkasans. During the war, I was one of the first ground soldiers in the entire division to spot and locate the enemy, the Republican Guard. I was also under small arms fire, part of a 4-man team to help secure position while having close air support called up on us. I was awarded my first Bronze Star with Valor and the Combat Infantry's Man's Badge. I would have 2 more Bronze Stars by the end of my career. My platoon was still running operations with Special Forces and CIA when the war was declared over. And most of the division, along with the military, was doing ticker tape parades and being welcomed home. I finally came home the first of the summer of 1991, and I was looking forward to having some time off. So I got back to the 101st, and as a E4 specialist, I played on the division softball team. I thought I was going to have an easy summer. I traveled all over playing softball. How bad is that, right? But my first sergeant, my sergeant major, and battalion commander, a guy named Petraeus, you may have heard of him, they had other plans for me. That summer ended up being the busiest summer of my entire career outside of a deployment. I went to sniper school, Pathfinder school, Special Forces selection, which I passed and graduated in the end. I decided I wanted to get out. It was the worst decision I ever made in my career. Getting out only lasted 3 months. I joined the Army National Guard here in Tennessee. I became a scout instructor, instructed at the Tennessee Military Academy. During this time, I became a subject matter expert in tactics, shooting, leadership. It was a very satisfying and rewarding job, and I loved it. Missing the structure, I wanted to try something different and local, so I joined the 134th Security Forces at McGee-Tyson Air Base. Everybody can remember what they were doing on September 11th, 2001. Being the only 2 trained snipers on the entire base, I found myself in a hide site overwatching part of the base for about 15 hours. Months later, I was selected to President Bush's security detail in Washington, D.C. During this tour, I met a lot of influential people. It helped me decide what to do next. I transferred to the Air Guard to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I went to Afghanistan, and I quickly realized that I was not made for the Air Force. I was too gung-ho. I still thought Army, acted like the Army, and trained like the Army. I transferred back to the Army, coming back to the U.S. in the March of 2003. I became an Army recruiter. I hated that job, but I loved working by myself. I also realized I learned in the paperwork what made the Army move, how to get things done, which would be invaluable to me later. At the end of 2004, I was asked to be a part of a general staff, to be part of the largest task force, over 4,000 personnel to date, to deploy to Iraq, the Sunni Triangle, Al-Anbar province. It was named the most dangerous place in the world. It became a pivotal time in my career. We trained in Camp Shelby, Mississippi for 6 months. I was the Operations Sergeant Major for the brigade. For most of the 6 months we were there. But then there's only a handful of combat veterans within the task force. So it was decided somewhere that I would be demoted. I became a battalion. I went down to a battalion to be a sniper platoon sergeant. Iraq is like stepping back into the 19th century with little or no electricity, no running water, no sewer system, no garbage service. Disgusting is an understatement. On my first day of Iraq, I was mortared. It was the Wild West at this time. The suicide bombers, the IEDs, the car bombs, which we call V-beds. As a sniper platoon sergeant, my snipers and I were very successful. I worked with SEAL Team 7 and SEAL Team 5 in Special Operations Command. During this time, I was involved in 3 separate IED incidents. The last IED explosion, I was in ICU clinging to my life. A month later, I went back out on patrol. My snipers and I left Iraq in 2006. Those memories still haunt me today, and probably the rest of my life. From 2006 to 2009, I trained and evaluated training being conducted to soldiers and units or who were deploying to Afghanistan and Iraq. I made it a decision, regardless of who you were, where you were going to get the best training I could get you before you went downrange. It became my mission in life. In January 2009, I found myself going to Afghanistan. I was a sniper, a counter sniper, personal security for some officers, and a security force platoon sergeant. I came home a year later, and in 2013, I was an ops sergeant major. I had enough of the politics. I switched to the Air Force one last time and retired in 2014 as a chief master sergeant. But let's be clear. Remember when I told you I was too gung-ho for the Air Force? I thought like the Army and trained like the Army. Well, my retirement may say one thing, but I still think of myself as Army. I feel like I'm disrespecting all those Air Force chiefs who stuck it out and made that rank. So I personally still refer to myself as a sergeant major. Post-retirement from 2010, and when I got back to Afghanistan to 2015, I was doing high-threat diplomatic security for the State Department. If you ever seen the movie 13 Hours about Benghazi, that's what I did. As I slowed down and retired, my demons started coming back. I was in constant back and hip pain from a misdiagnosis of 2 compression fractures in my spine from a bad parachute accident that I had in 1989. Constant ringing in the ears, the flashbacks, the nightmares. Since my retirement, I have been diagnosed with severe PTSD, anxiety syndrome, operator syndrome, 3 traumatic brain injuries, and I had 4 back procedures with 4 to 6 to go. I lost my best friend and sniper partner on my birthday to suicide. But in the end, I can't give up. Have to stay in the fight. So this comes to Sadie's story. Smoky Mountain Service Dogs does an unbelievable job with helping the veteran and pairing you up with the right dog. Every dog has a personality, and Lord knows every veteran has a personality, right? So during this process, you're interviewed multiple times by yourself, and then your spouse is also interviewed. Eventually, you get a home visit, and the home visit is very detailed. And this is where they warn you, we're going to bring a dog in. We don't know if it's going to be yours, so do not get attached to it. Remember that, right? Do not get attached to it. But they're going to come in and ask questions, check your house. It's almost like adopting a kid. Make sure everything's in working order. So the cars come rolling in. My wife is looking out the front door window, and the first word she says is, "That's going to be your dog." What did they tell us, son? So anyway, we're sitting there. My back is against the wall. Everybody is in the middle of the living room. I'm by the front door. I'm watching hands. I'm looking at everybody. The training is taking over. Now, no one is a threat, but my training is there. My anxiety level is through the roof. I'm not even talking, and the interview is supposed to be about me. So our founder, one of the founders, Susie Kitchens, she realizes what's going on, and she asked me to sit right in the middle of the living room on the couch. I'm surrounded by two other trainers, Susie and my wife. Now, Sadie's doing exactly what she's doing now beside a trainer. So I sit down. They start asking me questions. I've told this story 1,000 times, and it still gets me. So bear with me. She gets up with no commands, and she puts her head on my lap. She picked me. It's like touching your child for the first time, knowing you won the lotto, because your life is changing at that second. And that's how I felt. I still feel it. So she has changed my life for the better. I was in a dark, deep hole. I didn't know how to get out of it. My wife had taught me how to tread water. Sadie taught me how to swim. During this process, my daughter and my wife tried to get me into journaling, to write things down, to get it out. And this, speaking in front of you tonight, is part of my healing. Our PTSD doctors, which we love to call wizards, because they got all kinds of funky stuff that come out and help you to be better. My wizard said to get it out, talk about it, write about it. Well, this is part of my healing, so I thank you. So during our journaling, everybody knows what happened last year. You're stuck at home, COVID. I start writing a book. I wrote a novel. So you can go on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. It's called Cry of the Eagle by Charles A. Stewart. About 90% of it's true. I had to change some things because of security, because it's about the CIA and some guys. But there's a lot going on in that. So I urge you, just plug in my book there. In closing, I have a couple messages. For the young people, your time is coming. Be a difference in something. Stand up and support something. I encourage all of you to be something bigger than yourself. If you can accept that challenge, whatever that may be, whatever you put into is what you'll get out of. And the rewards and the lessons learned will be priceless. And you will be a better person for it. I promise you that. No one owes you anything. You have to stand up and do it yourself. For all of you, all of our veterans have protected our democracy, our freedom, our way of life. Today, we honor and thank them. And tomorrow, we must continue to honor them. They have given us a chance to live in freedom today and the opportunity to look forward to tomorrow. They have given us every day, and they have protected every freedom. We must honor them every day in every way that we can. The best way to honor our veterans is to take an active part in maintaining freedom in America. We must teach our future generations about what it means to be an American. Study our history. Good, bad, or indifferent, we must learn from our past. We must volunteer in our communities, take care of our veterans and their families, vote in elections, and continue to try to make America the best that it can be. Without our veterans, we wouldn't be where we are today. Without you, we won't be able to reach where we could be tomorrow. Thank you for honoring our veterans on this day. May God bless them, you, and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you for giving your time to share your story with us this evening. Here to tell you a little bit more about the organization and how you can help is Lori Burt and Hooligan.
Everybody. Thank you, Chuck. Wasn't that a wonderful story to hear? So I am a volunteer with Smoky Mountain Service Dogs, and to be very frank, I got involved with this group because of the dogs. I've always been a dog lover, and I welcome the opportunity. But since I've been with them, a huge bonus has been the opportunity to associate with and get to know heroes like Chuck. So I have with me tonight Hooligan. I'm just going to take a few minutes to show you a couple of things. All of our dogs can do so many more tasks, but for right now I'll just say, Hooligan, Kane. I switched up canes on him tonight, so he's a little confused. Good boy, go get it, Kate. No? He's more used to getting it from the floor, so I did switch things up. Yes. And I also just want to take a moment to thank the Interact Club, Seymour High School, middle school, everybody who's been involved in putting on this wonderful program tonight. And also thank the community. I think this is our 4th year that we've been associated, and during that time, the schools and the community has been very generous to us. We've been able to purchase a treadmill. Yes, they do make treadmills just for dogs. They're very expensive, but we were able to get a treadmill. We've been able to furnish our fitness department with all of the fitness equipment that they need, and we really thank you very much for your support. It's very much appreciated. Hooligan, phone. Phone. I put it, there you go. Yes. So I'll just leave you with this thought that imagine, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to have your dog find your phone, right? But imagine, if you will, that you are somebody who has fallen down, cannot get up to find your phone to call for help. So being able to have your dog find your phone for you, and that could be anywhere in the house, upstairs, downstairs, he will search for the phone until he finds it and then be able to bring it back to you. So please check us out on Facebook, on all of the social media platforms, our website. It's all under the same name, Smoky Mountain Service Dogs. We'd love to share our story with you. I'd love to tell you more about it. If you are part of a group that has an occasional speaker, let me know. I will be glad to schedule a time when Hooligan and I can come, and Hooligan has a little bit more time to show you even more things that our dogs can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori and Hooligan. It's always such a pleasure to watch Hooligan demonstrate these tasks and hear from you regarding how we can help your organization better serve our veterans. We have a little surprise for you tonight, but first I'd like to introduce my dear friend, Miss Jean Burkhart, to fill you in on a bit of backstory.
Thank you, Seymour High School Choir. Thank you, Miss Glovak. Thank you, Miss Gant. I don't know why everybody's doing that tonight, but I just join in, Gant. So anyway, thank you for having me here this evening. What a privilege it is to be here and to watch these young people as they honor our veterans. This is quite a familiar place for me to be, but I certainly enjoyed watching from the pews. Tonight feels like a culmination of a dream, of a plan that was years in the making. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory for how we came to work with the Smoky Mountain Service Dog. So when I came to Seymour High School in 1994, as choral director, they didn't have a choir and they didn't have a Veterans Day program, but I had seen a Veterans Day program when I taught at West High School. And I saw the things that that program did for the students, the staff, and the community there. And I wanted that same thing for our community. So I went to Mr. Wilson, our principal, and pitched the idea. What do you think about us doing a Veterans Day program? And so he was all on board with that. So that began our annual Veterans Day program. Now, the problem with doing something annually, though, is, first few years, great, and then after 5 years, and then 10 years, and 15 years, and 20 years, and 25 years, and even longer. I think I made it 27 years. Anyway, after doing it for so long, it becomes increasingly difficult to find a new way to say thank you to the veterans in a way that is still meaningful to them, so that it's fresh. Because there are some veterans that have been attending this program since 1994, and I didn't want it to ever seem as if it was just pulled out of a filing cabinet, because I have family members too who've served in the military. In any case, in order to combat that kind of apathy, I started doing research. Every summer, I started my summer vacation with reading books written by veterans, about veterans. Mr. Stewart, I'll be looking forward to reading your book. And I attended conferences and meetings or wherever veterans were speaking. And I happened to be in Florida one year. It was probably before the 2006 Veterans Day program. And I heard a veteran speak about the working dog, the military working dog. And then there was another veteran who spoke about the dog, his service dog. And an idea came into my mind at that time. I thought, I absolutely have to have a military dog in my program. Unfortunately, military dogs are trained, as I soon found out, in Texas. So getting a dog its trainer or the service person was just a near possible task. But I could never let go of that idea. So in 2006, I did a Veterans Day program with a slide presentation about the military working dog. But it just never felt right for me. It just wasn't what I wanted. I kept every year looking, talking. I kept talking back and forth with people in San Antonio, Texas, because sometimes these dogs get retired to their owners, well, not their owners necessarily, but their service person. And there was actually at one point someone in Kentucky, and I thought I was actually going to have a military dog for our program. I think that was back in 2012, but it again didn't work out. Later I came close. In 2015, I met with Army Specialist, Mr. Jackson, Thomas Jackson, and I got his story and we presented it, but unfortunately his dog Spot had passed away. At that time in 2015, I thought, I guess it's just not meant to be. But I just couldn't let go of the idea. I just felt something was missing. I felt like it was supposed to be in our program. And so I continued research and talking to people and so forth, and in the summer of 2017, my research led me to the Smoky Mountain Service Dog. And I thought, wow, this is it. And it was. The minute that I talked to Laurie Britt and found out about what these dogs are doing for our veterans in our own local community, I knew they had to be a part of our program. And so, starting in 2017, the dogs have been a part of it. Our students have raised money every year and been so generous to give to this program. And in the spring, well, after our Veterans Day program last year, Laurie said, I have a surprise for you. I can't talk about it yet, but the board, we're thinking that they're going to vote that one of our service dogs will be named Seymour after your high school before all they're generous. I thought you all knew that. You weren't supposed to gasp. This was announced on Facebook. Oh, well, okay. Well, okay, surprise. But this was announced through their website and on Facebook, and Miss Glovac and I, we blew up all Facebook and Seymour Speaks Out and so forth. And Mr. Stewart, let me just say, I always wondered why I couldn't turn loose of that idea. And after hearing you speak tonight, very obvious why that was placed in my heart. These kids needed to hear that message. They need to see what these dogs do. So God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part.
So this year, being my first year all by myself here, last year we were together, Miss Burkhart and I, and this year's my first year here alone. I had to carry on this tradition of working with the Smoky Mountain Service Dog. So last month, Miss Glovac and I approached the students with several different options of how we could help Smoky Mountain Service Dog this year. They decided that they wanted to work toward a specific goal. One of the items that Smoky Mountain Service Dog often needs is a custom-fitted harness for each puppy in training or graduate of the program. These harnesses cost $530 a piece. Though this would be a challenging goal, our students decided that this was the direction that they wanted to take, and they have worked diligently to ensure that this goal is met. What the students did not realize is that they not only fulfilled their goal of raising enough money to purchase that harness for a training dog, but they raised enough money to purchase many additional items of Smoky Mountain Service Dog's choosing. Throughout the last 5 weeks, our students raised a grand total of $2,000 to go towards Smoky Mountain Service Dog. In return for their continuous support, the Smoky Mountain Service Dog organization voted last spring to recognize the unwavering support of these students and their sponsors by naming their newest service dog after our high school. At this time, we are honored to officially introduce to the community one of the soon-to-be graduates of the Smoky Mountain Service Dog team. Please welcome to the stage Seymour and his handler, Gail Frana. He's only 6 months old.
He's just like a student.
At this time, we would like to ask Lori and Hooligan, as well as Chuck and Sadie, to come back to the stage so we could get a picture with you. Yes.
Left. Hey, left. Left. Yes. Okay.
Haley, if you would please come a little bit closer up here. This is our
Stay.
photographer from school.
Stay.
And why don't you all stand as well?
Sit. Stay. Leave it.
I wish our students listened that good.
Good?
At this time, on behalf, not yet, of the Interact Club and the SHS Choral Department, we'd like to present you the new harness and some treats and toys for all of the dogs here today.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
We are so humbled and honored that you would name Seymour after our school. Thank you for the exceptional work that you do for our veterans, and thank you for letting us be a part of it. Please give one more round of applause.
This is our day to honor those veterans who sacrificed their lives in the struggle for freedom, and to pay respect to those who have survived their fallen comrades. It is also a day to remember the men and women who are serving today. America can never fully repay her veterans, and we will never be able to express our feelings to our fallen soldiers. May we always be thankful that we live in a nation built upon the firm foundation of freedom. It is an unshakable tower which the forces of war and hatred will never destroy. May we refuse to ever take our freedom for granted. May we always be mindful that with the privilege of freedom comes great responsibility. Freedom is not a license to do what we please, but a moral obligation to do what is right. May we never give up on freedom. This Veterans Day, we should remember our history as we prepare for our future, pray for peace, and on this day each year, remember to thank our American veterans. We pray that God will bless our veterans and our nation.
In the heart of every person is a longing to be free, free from fear and persecution, free to think and free to speak. Too many hearts have long been silent to the song of liberty. Let the heart of every person be a place where freedom rings. Let freedom ring from the mountains, freedom ring from sea to sea. Let freedom ring to every heart that longs for hope and liberty. Let freedom ring to every nation, freedom ring near and far.
Thank you again so much for being here this evening. I have just a few thank yous to extend. First of all, yes, please be seated. First Baptist Church for allowing us to have this program here this evening. Central Office and the Sevier County School Board, including our superintendents, and we are honored to have our school board representative, Mr. Charles Temple, and Stephanie Husky, our interim director of schools, in attendance this evening. The SHS staff and administration, Mr. Scott Williams for running our sound tonight. Kevin Tierney, who is making a video of tonight's program, and those DVD forms will be available in the lobby. All of the members of the Smoky Mountain Service Dog Organization, Miss Williams and Miss McCord, for having their students so well prepared this evening. Choral assistant, Mrs. Christy Glovac, for her hard work and the many hours that she spent studying piano. Our students, one last time, who have worked so incredibly hard to put on a good program. Finally, thank you, veterans. Because of you and your sacrifice, we are able to live freely in this beautiful country. Let's give one more round of applause for our veterans. We sincerely appreciate all of your attendance this evening. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Wondering how